So the story goes on. The three resolve join together in God's service and form a society. A society. Association. A society. Socius. Somebody who works with you. As the aim they set themselves was to procure the glory of the Most Holy Trinity by the means of priests, they decided to take as their model that of the three divine persons, taking divine love as their sole bond without any vow, as Father Condron himself had. This is all from his biography. So they're going to take some way of, they're going to make this work by fair means or foul, etc. So what do? So on the 21st of November, the day when the clergy had to dedicate themselves for the next year, they went on pilgrimage to Montmartre, which was that hilltop outside Paris before that present basilica was there, and consecrated themselves to the Most Blessed Trinity with the promise to stay together and work for the instruction and sanctification of the clergy, a task yet to be done, completed. They did so in these terms in a statutory declaration before a notary. They don't take a vow, they go to a notary and say, and bind themselves in law. Three priests binding themselves called in unity of mind to the service of God and the Holy Church, to train for him ministers to serve his greatness worthily, believe that in honour of the divine society of the three persons, they should unite by a holy promise never to leave one another, nor to give up the plan that he has pleased God to show them. That's what they do. Bind themselves in law to make this succeed. And we know that Ollier did succeed, and the Society of Saint-Sulpice was founded, and the Sulpicians exist today in this country. Okay, so all of this takes place in 1641 in Gerard. And we're reminded that in 1691, 50 years later, de La Salle is in Paris, and he finds out that 8 of the 16 brothers in Reims have decided not to be brothers anymore, and then only one novice has turned up, and there's a whole crisis. And he wonders what he's going to do. And he believes at this stage that, well, he clings to his faith, that the society was God's work, and that with faith in the brothers that God had given him, they should do something. So this is what they do. On this same day, 50 years later, from what Ollier had done, de La Salle takes two companions who have been with him for a long time, Nicolas Vuillard, Gabriel Drolin, the one who spent all that time in Rome, and they make a vow to found the society, even if only one of them was left to do so, if they had to beg for food to stay alive. And what's important is that this was not known to the rest of the brothers. We only know this when Drolin spends all these years in Rome, comes back, and he tells the story. Okay, what do they actually vow then? This is too small for you to see, I'm sorry, I thought we might have had a bigger screen, but anyhow, they say, we consecrate ourselves entirely to you, to God, particularly with all our power and all our care, the establishment of the society of the Christian schools, in the manner that appears to us, excuse this jumping round, to be the most agreeable to you and the most advantage to the society. And therefore they name themselves and they say, from this moment on until the last survivor, or till the establishment of the said society, we make a vow of association and union to bring about and maintain the said establishment. And de La Salle here is copying, obviously, what Ollier had done. Why did he do this? Or how do we... Well, it's interesting that it was only in 1983 one of our great scholars, Brother Maurice Auguste, was looking up something on Ollier, and he went to our library in Rome, and he found a book, like many of the French books of the time, which you cut the page as you went along. Some of you of a certain age might remember that. Others won't believe it could have been possible, but it was. And he found this Life of Ollier, but it had only been cut a certain number of pages. So he started to cut more pages, and he found this story. And this is the first time we ever realized that what de La Salle did on the 21st of November 1691 was a sheer copy of what Ollier had done 50 years before. And some brother said, so it wasn't a very heroic vow, he was just imitating somebody else. Well, I don't know. I saw it rather differently. We know that he always took advice. He was a great friend of where he studied with the Sulpicians. We know that he went to a priest called Father Beauyn, B-E-A-U-Y-N, and said, what do I do? And apparently Beauyn must have said to him, I don't know what you do, but this is what Ollier did. And that's what they do. And they found the society. Okay. Well then, 3 years later, De La Salle takes 12 people and they each write out this formula of vows. And they make a vow of association. This time now, this is for life. And a vow of obedience, and that they will do this for the rest of their lives. And we have here just, that is exactly what De La Salle wrote. We have that actual copy in our archives. What's interesting about the way they do the thing, though, is this. Each one, first of all, they make the vow to the Most Holy Trinity, etc., Catholics, Christians. It's I consecrate myself entirely to you. The other vow was we. To procure your glory as far as I'm able and as you will require of me. And for this purpose, I, Jean Baptiste de La Salle, priest, promise and vow to unite myself and remain in society with brothers Nicolas Vuillat, Gabriel Drolin, Jean Patois, Gabriel Chabrasiga, Jean-Henri, Jacques Compin, Jean Jacot, Jean-Louis de Macheville, Michel Barthélemy Jacquinot, Edmond Léguillon, Gilles Pierre, and Claude Risset. Each one names the other. And we have all the other copies in the archives, where they've all written down De La Salle's name, and then the other 11. They bond, they form a society, they associate themselves. And what do they say to themselves for? To keep together and by association, gratuitous schools, schools for the poor. Schools that are absolutely free so the poor can come to them. Wherever I may be sent, even if I should be obliged in order to do so to beg alms and live on bread alone. Or to do in the said society what I shall be given to do, whether by the body or by the superiors who are in charge of it. So I promise and vow obedience, etc., association and stability. And that is the vow that they make. Okay. When we move on from here, we can contrast the two. First of all, the heroic vow is 3 people make it together. The second one, they do it together, but each one says I and names the other 11. It's a bonding, very important bonding exercise. And I won't go into all the details of this, which are interesting, but a little bit to save our time. So, and then the thing, as they finish the formula, they say, I promise and vow obedience, whether to the body of the society or to the superiors, which vows whether of association or stability, meaning for the rest of my life, in the said society, I promise to keep inviolably all my lifetime. So the 3 vows are association, obedience, and stability. But when De La Salle is dead, and the brothers go to Rome to get approval of the society, because they have no approval either of church or of state, they have to present this kind of new thing to the cardinals, who don't really understand who they are. So the cardinals say, we know, for example, that the cardinals approve this along with a number of other things. There are 38 things they approve in 2 days. We know this from the minutes of the meetings. Now, we don't have any transcript of what they said, but we can imagine the transcript of something like this. Who are these people? Oh, well, they're French. Oh, I see. Oh, well, they're French. Yeah, that's right. but they're men. Yeah, they're men, yeah. And they teach. Yeah, okay. So they're educated. Yeah, that's right, yes. They live in community, yes. And their rule says they don't want to be priests. Yeah. What's wrong with them? Well, they must be monks. Well, okay, well, it doesn't mention anything about poverty, chastity, and obedience. It doesn't mention the typical poverty, chastity, obedience of monks, but, well, let's give them poverty, chastity and obedience, and they can have these other little things they put in those frills. What's that? Association? What's this association about? So they prove us. Holy Spirit, you know, Christians believe work in strange ways. Well, they approve us and we become a religious congregation. Did Little Son intend us to be a religious congregation? We don't know, he never said. There's enough evidence to suggest that he intended us to be, if that was God's providence. But anyhow, we get approved and we go on merrily, etc. We get suppressed in the French Revolution and we come alive again in 1805. Napoleon invites us back because the kids are running wild in the streets. So he invites us back. You can teach grade schools. You can only have grade schools. You can't do anything else. And you come under the control of the university. So we begin. We start with 75 brothers who answer the call. We're suppressed in 1792. And in those years, from the next 13 years or so, a lot of brothers, because their whole society is dismissed, they've all been given a certain amount of money after the sale of properties to actually go away and do something else. Some of them are married, some of them, I suppose, die. Eventually, when the brothers come back to Lyon, they're clever, they don't come back to Paris yet. Paris is a little bit, you know, always uncertain, even today. So, so they come back to Lyon. And they sent out a message saying, listen, we're back. And 75 brothers eventually turn up in the next 2 years who haven't married and who want to start again. And then they get a letter from a group in Reims saying, who the hell are you? We've been here all the time. There are about 10 of them around Reims who've been working away quietly, didn't have their habits on, but they taught schools and etc. In the cathedral city of Laon, L-A-O-N, beautiful cathedral city, when the red caps in the revolution said, no, we can't, no, we're going to close this school, the parents revolted and said, who's going to teach our kids? Oh, well, all right, well, provided they don't wear those habits, they can teach. So you still have, right next to the cathedral, Rue des Frères. It's where the brothers continued to teach, right through the revolution. But they come back, 75, eventually they become about 150, around about 1810, and by the end of the century, they're 15,000. Goes like that. And from France, in the 1830s, they go to Canada, in the 1840s, they come here, in the 1850s, they go to Asia. Then we go through to 1904, 1905, when they bring down the anti-clerical laws, and you can no longer live in community, you can't wear a religious habit, you can't run a school as a Catholic school, and nearly 7,000 brothers of the 11,500 brothers in France say, if that's the case, we're going somewhere else. The superior looks at what's happening and he says, when a great ship is sinking, it's every man for himself. He's a great mathematician, Gabriel Marie, but he wasn't exactly the man to inspire much confidence. So off they go. They go everywhere. They go into Spain, they go into Switzerland, they go into Germany, they go everywhere. Well, they're in Germany long before that. They go to Central and Latin America. And they go and courageously learn other languages, etc. like that. 1914 comes, they all get the call up to come back and fight for La Belle France. If they acknowledge the fact that they were called up to fight for La Belle France and say, yes, yes, I'd love to come, but sorry, I'm down here in Chile or Peru or Bolivia, if they tick you off on the list. You've responded. If you never respond, your name is kept on the list. So 1933, a French brother, world expert in botany, is invited to Hitler's great botanical feast in Berlin. He's a world expert. As he comes down the gangplank, you see in Normandy at Le Havre, he's arrested because he's never answered the call-up. He's put into prison. We have to intercede at the highest level to get him out. And he makes quite sure after the Congress in Berlin he doesn't go back via La Belle France. All of this is important because somewhere in this whole thing, the dispersal of the Institute takes place through an event they can't control.